Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we are back. We have reached the end of our coverage for 2025. I know that you're listening to this at the beginning of 2026, but there was so much to watch and think about and talk about that we want to give our brains a little bit of extra breathing room to process it before we gave you our top 5 films of 2025. We are going to start by talking about the biggest news stories of 2025 before we discuss some of our sort of more, I call them more dubious honors or additional special awards that we'll give to films before we jump into our top 5 films of the year. And joining me today, as always, he's my co-host and award-winning Oklahoma filmmaker. He is stuck with me for another year, Laron Chapman. Welcome back, sir.
Yes, we're entering the final stretch towards my Miss America or my Super Bowl, the getting over to that Oscar stretch, and so in full swing. So it is. I'm very excited to hear what I think. I know a couple of people's choices, like what might be here, but I'm also excited to see the placement of all of those things.
To add to the chaos, though, Laron Chapman, we're bringing back, this is an annual tradition, our good friend from GoodTrash Media, GoodTrash Genre Cast, and now currently over at the Oklahoma Film Exchange, running programming, running the theater, along with a lot of other amazing Oklahoma film heads. Dalton Stuart. Dalton, welcome back, sir.
Single-handedly keeping the theater experience alive in Oklahoma City. So yes, thank you for that, sir. He's the James Cameron of our space here, guys. Get those butts in seats, guys.
That's right.
But yes.
Well, certainly not single-handedly, but definitely happy to help keep the micro cinema experience alive and well in the region for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing incredible work. I love to see, and you guys inspire me. Laron's out here making movies and talking about movies. Dalton's over here talking about movies, and now he's running a theater. I just talk about the movies. I mean, yeah, sure, I produced the show, but also now I'm like, what? I gotta find my next angle. What's my next other film philanthropic thing I can do? Because you guys keep me motivated, inspired, and I think it's a testament to how much both of you love and actually believe passionately in film. So thank you for all the work you're doing, Dalton. And again, I think you should be proud of the work you and the OFX team have done, not only to raise the funds to keep the theater open, but to keep it running for more than like a week. You guys have really crushed it on the programming and then the marketing. So great work.
I think we're the Venn diagram of what should happen in Hollywood. You got the film critics, you got the filmmakers, and then you got the people trying to get butts in seats. It's that this is what we need. This is what we need more. This is a microcosm of what we hope will change in future years. So.
And for you listeners, what does that mean? Just know that our opinions are just our film opinions, but also these people live, breathe, and sleep film and cinema in a way that I admire and a way that I hope you admire. So that is why we have assembled these 3 people to name our top 5 films for the Cinematropolis.com. Now, before we go any further, hopefully you're watching us on YouTube, or maybe you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify. These are new platforms for us because we are in what I like to call video 0.5, or the beta of the Cinematropolis on video. So if you're listening the old-fashioned way, great. Stay plugged in on your preferred podcast app. If you want to see our faces, you can head to YouTube or watch on Spotify. If you are on YouTube, give us a subscribe, ring the bell so that you get notified when new episodes drop. And this is a conversation. I really would love to get your input in the comments. What are your top 5 films of the year? Let us know by just engaging with us through the channels. Like our videos, comment, whatever. Or you can hit us up on social media on Instagram at the Cinematrop or Facebook.com/Cinematropolis. And again, Instagram for a long time has been my stepchild's stepchild in terms of social media. But with the death of Twitter and my jadedness towards short form writing, that means the Cinematropolis is now doubling down on Instagram at this moment in time. We'll see where we're at in 6 months. So follow us there for all the latest updates. Now, gentlemen, 2025 was a consequential year in the history of film in a number of different ways. Laron and I are going to talk more about the brass tacks box office numbers in our episode coming next week where we talk 2026 films as well as our box office predictions for next year. But I thought this might be a good time for us to call out. We should each pick one news story that we would say was the most notable trend that stuck out to you in 2025 and elaborate a little bit on why. So Laron Chapman, my co-host, I'll throw it to you first. What was sort of the top trend or news story that you saw at the cinema last year, and why do you think it's so important?
It's more of an entertainment story from last year that really resonated with me. It gave me a little bit of hope for humanity, if you will, was actually the firing of Jimmy Kimmel and then the rehiring of Jimmy Kimmel, and the pressure that was put on to get him back into that spot. And I think that being a fan of him or not being a fan of him was not really the point. It was the kind of the predatory nature in which he was kind of put in, leveraging politics with things. And I felt like it was good to see that the people showed up, stopped subscribing. They saw that dip. They saw that there was a change. There was a lot of love, to see him come back, and he is back, and he's doing exactly what he did before, in the same cadence that he did before. And I appreciate that. I thought that shows me that we still have some power as a people, to kind of influence those kinds of changes. And so that was a positive highlight for me in terms of, because I felt very aggrieved by the fact that it was that simple and that quick, that someone who'd been around for, I don't know how many terms now, how many seasons now, but was able to get his job back and do what he did. Because I think censorship is not something that we're asking for in that regard, and we have to be able to.
Sanctify is a bit of a trend, and this is not my pick, but the Ellisons getting rejected by the masses this year was a bit of an encouragement. Now, the Ellisons having nothing to do with the Jimmy Kimmel piece, but it was coming not long after Paramount announced they were going to cancel Colbert. There was a lot of stuff going on in the zeitgeist there, and then following that, you also see that they're trying very hard to have a hostile takeover of Warner Brothers that seems to not be working out. So, there are forces work behind the scenes that I think a lot of people aren't paying attention to. That it's not. It's an ongoing story. Unfortunately,
absolutely, yeah.
Dalton Stuart, what would you say was a top news story or trend from the film industry last year that stuck out to you?
Yeah, obviously this is kind of a two-pronged thing, and it's something I got to be on the ground to see. You already mentioned the work I've been doing with Oklahoma Film Exchange this year, and it was really cool to see kind of the rise of micro cinemas as I was, trying to get one off the ground. There was a lot of writing across the sort of the film space. A lot of it coming from IndieWire, but obviously it got written about in multiple publications. Just this idea that like these repertory screenings, these theaters that aren't showing first run movies and maybe are in weird locations or have a less than ideal audiovisual experience or small seating capacities, all these things adding up to something that feels like it's more engaged with trying to keep cinema culture alive than show the hot new thing. And finding out recently, we saw the box office numbers and demographics reporting that it is the younger generation. It's our Zoomers out here driving the box office, and definitely at OFX. I mean, you can the places run half the people that work on OFX are in their mid 20s or younger. And a lot of our regulars are in that age group as well. I mean, obviously, like film heads of all ages come out, but like definitely we are seeing a lot of folks who are younger and interested in cinema coming out. So that revelation that we a lot of opining has gone on about, are the kids still going to the movies over the last few years? So getting it confirmed that not only are they going, they are driving it, I think is really exciting.
Well, and this is definitely something I think we'll talk about in our next episode when we do the box office breakdown. But I think it's no coincidence that movies like the Minecraft movie are the highest grossing film of the year. These are even though it's IP and Gen Z is obviously going to a lot more than just that. It's interesting to see how there's been a big shift in the types of movies that are top performers. And it's, I think, a reflection of the larger audiences who are showing up. And I would say, Dalton, mine sort of similar to yours, related. It's that and I think I might have said something like this last year. The death of cinema has been greatly exaggerated, and combining a couple of news stories, we got a lot of like question marks. We don't know what the next 5 years are going to look like. Netflix is almost certainly going to succeed in purchasing Warner Brothers in the next 18 months. That's going to mark a huge shift. Don't know exactly what that looks like, but it's going to be a shift. We have the rise of AI. So Disney invested $1 billion in OpenAI. Not a fan of that personally. I'm just saying that that is the thing that has happened. Question marks around what that actually looks like and what that means. Don't know. The streaming war is sort of coming to an end. We have seen that Netflix wins. Disney, because they're Disney and has nostalgia power, is hanging in there. Warner Brothers going to get absorbed by Disney, and Paramount's going to keep doing what it does. But we've narrowed it down, right? But here's the one that I think for me kind of puts the most in focus, though, with all these changes that are happening, is exactly what you're saying, which is that Gen Z is showing up to the theaters. My mind, the individual story this year that sticks out to me the most, well, I guess it's a two-parter. K-pop Demon Hunters not only lights up Netflix, huge trending top 10 for the rest of the year after it comes out. It opens its first weekend. It opens in a theater, no promotion, and does not have AMC. $20 million in one weekend. And why is that? It's because kids want to go see K-pop Demon Hunters in the theaters. People want to see the sing-along. There is an appetite for experiences that can only be had in a communal setting for all ages. And that, I think, again, as you say, the opining of the death of cinema, especially as millennials are getting a little older, there's a lot more like, oh, it's changing. I don't like where it's going. People don't go to the movies. And I think that the more notable point here is that things are changing, but that does not mean that cinema will cease to exist so much as it will shift into, I think, whatever the next chapter of the media will look like. Better or worse, I don't know, but I'm confident that people still are going to show up to the movies. People are still really hungry for experiences that bring them together with other fans of the thing they love. I think the younger generation is really showing up big time. Another film you could look into for that would be the Demon Slayer. A lot of demons winning the box office. There's K-pop Demon Hunters, but then the Demon Slayer anime movie that was a global phenomenon this year, but it made like $125 million in the US box office alone, grossing more than a lot of Disney movies in some cases. And it was almost exclusively for people under the age of 25. So I think that, it's easy to be in the doom and gloom, but I think that there is a future for cinema. It just might look a little bit different. So I don't know. That's kind of any other closing thoughts on news this year you guys want to chime in on?
I mean, we talked about it in a previous episode, so I won't belabor it, but I do want to shout out again the untimely death of Rob Reiner. He was a cultural touchstone filmmaker for me. And just the extraordinary circumstances under which that happened are still just very devastating. I watched When Harry Met Sally just the other day as a New Year's Eve, touchstone. So, but that being said, I mean, that was a big story for film, but on the more tragic side of things. But that being said, obviously we have those movies to, carry his legacy forward, in that regard. So, R.I.P. Rob Reiner and his wife.
We lost a lot of folks. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dalton. But we did lose a lot of folks this last year. Go ahead, Dalton.
I was just going to say on a lighter note, keeping to this note of like cinema changing and that, that doesn't mean a death, or rather, death is always transitory if there is a death going on. Two of my favorite things I saw this year were movies that did not have like conventional huge 1,000-screen releases. They were things that were rolled out to micro cinemas pretty much exclusively. One of them played at Dead Center as a documentary I'll talk about later. One was a family comedy I'll talk about later. But both of these were films that had pretty successful runs across the nation, and they didn't play in a single multiplex. So I think, it's really cool stuff happening, man. And Hollywood likes to pretend they're the only game in town. And I think more and more we're seeing that is not the case.
I think you nailed it. And I think especially with Netflix taking things over, that's only going to more become the case, which is, again, a change, better or worse. But I do think we're going to see diversification of where movies are made and what budget scales, which, creates opportunity. And also, to your point, Dalton, for micro cinemas, there's more platforms for people to watch movies than ever before, really. It's just not the multiplex. So, well said. It was a great year for auteurs. There's a lot of positive things to be said about 2025 in the movies. But before we get to that, I want to start things off with our special awards. So most of these are positive, some a little less so. But we have 11 awards we're going to hand out to the films that we thought stood out for one reason or another in 2025. Speaking of the year, I like our first special award is simply the This Could Only Be Made in 2025 award. So this is an award for a movie that's released only seems possible or acceptable given the unique conditions of our society as it exists in 2025. So, Dalton Stuart, kick us off. What was your This Could Only Be Made in 2025 movie award?
Well, it's a pair of documentaries. One of them I saw at Dead Center, and then we did play at Oklahoma Film Exchange. That's WTO 99 from Ian Bell and Alex Megaro. Just a wild movie that sort of shows without a single talking head or really a ton of context, just shows you the on the ground footage that was taken during the WTO protests in Seattle in 1999, and really wisely and astutely draws a lot of parallels to what's been going on in our politics over the last 10 to 15 years, and kind of identifies that there was this kind of powerful, beautiful moment where there was a working class coalition coming together before sort of nationalism and nativism run amok after World War II. I said World War II, September 11th. Picturing the wrong pair of vertical things next to each other in my mind. But yeah, WTO 99 really does wisely just kind of say, look, man, we've been talking about the same shit for almost 30 years now, and they kind of distracted us a little bit with things that didn't really ultimately matter. Paired with that, I would say Raoul Peck's new one, Orwell 2 + 2 = 5, which is much more grounded in our moment, but also is similarly kind of looking back at Orwell's writing on authoritarianism throughout his career, and sort of identifying this very authoritarian moment we're finding ourselves in, not just here in the United States, but globally. So both of these docs definitely speaking to the ongoing troubles, we'll say.
The ongoing day-to-day of living on planet Earth in 2025. America's not all right, but neither is quite a lot of the other countries either. So authoritarianism, not great. Not a great time, Bob. I think those are both great picks. I've only seen the latter of the two documentaries, but I think it's important for us to all think about how did we get here? And that requires a certain amount of literacy of history and analysis that documentaries like this can provide meaningfully. Because, Dalton, as you put it, there is an awful lot of noise that's been going on through the various forms of media over the last 30 years. Most of it a distraction from what's actually shifting, the future of our culture and where we're heading. So great picks. Laron Chapman, what is your This Could Only Be Made in 2025 award winner?
Well, that's great that you kind of teed this up really nicely in terms of media literacy, in terms of how we interpret the things that are put in front of us. The movie I have as Could Only Be Made in 2025 is Eddington. I feel like this is a movie that only hits the way that it does right now because it is talking about a very, very specific flash in the pan moment in time, but was absolutely an inflection point for basically how us taking an introspective look at how over reliant we have become on the media in cultivating and shaping our perspectives of the people in the world around us, and how insidious that can be when we consume so much of it and forget that aspect of, one, media literacy, but also just critical thinking. And I think COVID was an auto reset for the entire country. And some of us never recovered from that area. Some of us are still processing from that space. But if anything, I think it asked us all to sit back and reflect on our own common humanity and how much, the echo chambers that we find ourselves in are not serving either side of us, and so I think getting back to that place of when you can have a debate with another human being that you disagreed with without thinking that they were, the pits of the hell awful person, kind of thing. But also, I think this movie I did not have strong opinions about. I mean, didn't have favorable opinions about the first time I saw it. I have since rewatched it. I still have issues with it in general in terms of pacing, length, and things like general filmmaking things. But I do think that it is something that, upon reflection, is really getting at the crux of what's wrong with society right now, and that I wish it had a more pointed point of view about you know um, what we should do as a result of this. But I do think, and at the very least, it shows us the symptoms of the problem. And I think that it's really up to us, moving forward. How much we're going to rely on media to, again, continue to shape how we feel about everything, because they have been dishonest with us for a very long time.
Mm. I think that this is not the first time or second time. I think we're going to hear a lot more about Eddington throughout this podcast, whether I like it or not. So I think that's adequate. It's funny. Okay, well, I'll put it this way. That is my winner. That is one of my two winners for the special award number 2. So let me just pause by saying special award winner for number 1. This could only be in 2025 award for Caleb Masters here is between 2, but I'll just name one. No Other Choice. This is the latest movie from Park Chan-wook. And here's the thing I love about this movie. And you're probably gonna hear about this movie again later in the podcast, if I'm guessing. This is a snapshot of what automation is doing to the human psyche, to our culture, and ultimately, sort of fostering violent competition amongst well-meaning people who just want to live comfortably with their families. The movie explores a man who works in a paper factory in Korea who gets laid off due to automation. The person who fires him said he has no other choice. This individual is then seeking out new opportunities. Now, the thing is, he has worked with this paper company for 25 years. So he is his identity is wound up in his working in the paper industry. So even though he could go be a school teacher, he could go into a totally different industry, he really wants to get another job in the paper industry, which is undergoing massive automation in South Korea. And I don't want to give away too much of the film. I'll just kind of mention what's in the trailer. But in order for him to get a job that he wants in the paper industry, he decides that his best path forward is to murder his possible competition. So that way, when he applies for the job, there will be no one else who wants it. And it is a very Coen Brothers-esque sort of South Korean spin on this guy's journey to basically provide comfort for his family while also still sort of maintaining his sense of identity and self that he is so proud of from the paper industry. And I really think it captures this moment where this is happening in a lot of industries. I work in marketing. It's happening in marketing at a lot of companies where we're just saying, well, we can automate this. Doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong or effective. A lot of companies are just doing it because in late stage capitalism, that line has to go up into the right perpetually, or it's not good. And one way to do that is to lay off your workforce. So I think it's a movie that, despite being South Korean, is speaking to a very global thing that is happening right now. And by the way, it's a really funny movie that's also sadistic and has really been stewing my brain ever since I saw it. So that is my pick for could only be made in 2025 award. Let's go on to a special award number 2, which is the Doc Brown What Year Is It award for a movie that feels like it will age well. And this is where I'm going to do a twofer, but I'll start with Eddington, Laron, just because you mentioned it. I want to keep that thread going. I don't know that I fully agree that Eddington has I don't know that it's necessarily crystal clear in its thesis. What I will say it does extremely well is it captures the symptoms of what has been going on in our culture for the last 5-6 years, or more rather, how COVID sort of expedited what was already happening in our culture due to media, due to technology, due to the hyperpoliticization of our political environment. It does a really astute job at snapshotting the moment in time. I also think it quietly, or maybe not so quietly, depending on who you ask, has a very strong perspective on AI and tech companies. That is also a part of this moment in time we're living in, which is while we're all over here fighting about all this other stuff, a lot of which is not actually important to the day-to-day lives of the people it's affecting. There's this other thing that's quietly just happening while we're distracted. And I think, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dalton's got it. So I think it adequately does that. And it's a movie, though, it made me angry, and it still kind of makes me angry because I do think it has a lack of perspective in a lot of ways. But it is undeniable to me that it captures the feeling of the COVID era, zero doubt. And I think that is an incredibly valuable thing for us to hold on to in the decades ahead. And though I don't always agree with how Aster is doing things, he clearly has a control of like, in terms of like, he made a Coen brothers what was anyway, he made a neo-Western that feels very genre, very effective, but it also is able to feel like the real world. We all live through it. Oh, this guy's got a mask. I don't like him. I've got a mask. Well, I'm going to be judgy of you, or, all that stuff. Like it captures all of it. It captures the way the news like infected everyone's brains, depending on what news source they were watching. Like, it's just all that stuff is real. I think it makes this movie invaluable as a time capsule. And, for me, the jury's still out on whether or not it has a strong enough perspective for me to say it's a truly great film. But I think it's got the bones. Could be about an hour shorter, but it's got a lot going for it. So, Eddington, I also think, and I'll elaborate more on this later, I would also give One Battle After Another the same award. Dalton Stuart, what is your Doc Brown? What year is it award winner?
Well, this one kind of speaks to what you're talking about as far as I think we'll find it aging well. And I also think it feels like a movie from a bygone era, and that's Mike Flanagan's The Life of Chuck, which technically started playing festivals last year, but had its theatrical release this year. And I think speaks to it's a pretty recent Stephen King collection of short stories that it comes from, or rather novellas. And I think it kind of highlights the ways in which our anxieties about the end of the world have kind of been ongoing for a while now. And I think it addresses by setting up sort of a tale that seems like it's going to only be about our anxiety about the end of the world, and then to kind of pull back and become, or rather not even pull back, but zoom in and become this sort of look at the life of a single person and how they, became the person they were and how they impacted the people around them. And again, structurally, I think it's a really interesting film. I know it's borrowing a lot from the structure of its novella, but I think it does a lot to kind of get you to lean in as an audience member. And I think it's going to be, again, like reminds me of a bygone era of like Frank Darabont Stephen King adaptations, or Rob Reiner Stephen King adaptations, where we're not just doing the horror stuff, we're also doing sort of his interesting slice of life movies with a little, maybe there is sort of a sprinkle of magical realism or sort of supernatural touches throughout. I thought it was a really interesting movie. I caught up with it during FYC season because I had a screener, and I was just so tickled by it. Thought it was a really nice, heartwarming, just gentle little film that I think more people should check out, because I think it's kind of slept on, and I think it will kind of start to develop a reputation as the years go on.
I love that you picked that. It's also the last time you're going to hear about that movie on this show. So I also am a big fan of that movie. And that movie is only appreciated since I saw it. And frankly, I really would like to rewatch it soon. Great pick. Laron Chapman, what is your Doc Brown? What year is it award winner?
I have a two for here too. For all the reasons you said, for no other choice. I think this is a film that will age well. Particularly, I just feel like Park Chan-wook is, right he understands the pulse of the culture right now, and he's doing it in more sophisticated ways than I think some of the other movies we've mentioned, but in a way that I think is palatable for everyone, but is also still provocative without being kind of edgelordy. It does feel like it's skewering the right moment. It's not punching down. It's not, it's having this conversation in a way that is going to be digestible for everybody. And I hate the word palatable because that's normally something I'm against when it comes to the way that people execute their ideas and themes in movies. But I think that it still has all of those, all of his isms, attached to it. It's not that this film is not challenging you, but it's definitely doing so in a way that I don't think alienates anybody, but it kind of recontextualizes everything for everybody in an effective way. The other film I have here is A Sentimental Value. I actually think that this will age really well. I think it's a really beautiful exploration of generational trauma and the many, many, many different ways that it affects different people at different times for different reasons. But how that human connection that we have, and how art as a touchstone point for healing continues to have that effect on people throughout time, and it speaks to us in ways that sometimes we ourselves can articulate with words. And so I found that movie to be very very moving and powerful, but also something that I think will appreciate over time.
What an interesting time to be alive, guys. I have to say. Such a variety of genre films this year. I know we're going to talk more about that, but a lot of different perspectives to keep in mind. Now, I think Sentimental Value is one. That one snuck in right at the end of the. Well, I mean, I think it's been playing in some theaters, but it didn't get a huge release, get a huge push. I just caught it right before I voted for my for-year consideration. And Laron, I think what I would say is, I think I'll elaborate more on this on our next episode, but I was pretty cool on Hamnet in terms of like a film about how, storytelling, especially cinema, can heal and bring people together. I was pretty cool emotionally on that one, whereas Sentimental Value had the opposite effect in terms of like, I was really deeply moved for it. So it's a great choice and more people should see it. It's really outstanding performances. Let's move on.
He says it to the man who's wearing a Hamnet shirt to the podcast, but I hear you. I hear you, my friend.
My brother, you do not want to see how low Hamnet is on my letterbox list this year. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry to all the people who really loved that movie and had a magical experience with it, because I'm happy for you all. Let's move on to special award number 3. And this one is, of course, in loving memory of Film Spotting SVU. That is a now defunct podcast for many years. It was hosted by Matt Singer, and it was what was it?
Allison Wilmore.
Allison Wilmore.
Catch on the new Blank Check spinoff. I forget what it's called, but it's her and the guy that used to write for Variety. Critical Darlings is what it's called, and it is kind of about the Oscar race season. Very excited to have Allison back in podcast feeds. But yeah, they did this every year for their end of year wrap up, and I'm glad you do it as well, Caleb.
It's a great award. It's a great idea. I mean, they're both still doing stuff in writing, but I desperately I really miss hearing their takes on movies on a regular basis, especially in the streaming era that we're in now. And then the first of the 2 awards in honor of Film Spotting SVU, the first one is the movie I did not get award. So this is for a movie that was beloved either critically or by the masses that simply did not click with you. And Laron Chapman, I'll throw it back to you first. What is the movie I did not get award winner for you?
I mean, I hate to say this because I know Dalton's a fan of this film, and I'd love for him to speak to it. But it was highest to lowest for me. I'm a huge Spike Lee, Denzel. Like that is my favorite combination. I know that Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are becoming that new trend of that same kind of duality there. But this was a movie, and maybe I need to rewatch it, but it just flatlined for me for most of its runtime until maybe there's one really electric scene between A$AP Rocky and Denzel in I think it's a recording studio that, man, I wish the rest of the movie had that kind of energy, because I did feel like this felt like phoned in to me for Spike Lee. I think the performances by the two leads were very strong, but it just felt inept on a storytelling level, especially when rewatching High and Low, which is what it's based on. Rewatching that in preparation for it, I just feel like it felt like the kind of carbon copy remake that he did, like what he did with Old Boy, which also didn't work for me, his adaptation of that. There's certain remakes I just don't think, I know he has a lot of reverence for, that I don't feel like he really met the moment with that particular movie. But I don't hate it, but it's definitely one that a lot of people were a lot warmer on than me. And so I'd love to hear from someone who had more insights to bring about why they love that movie so much. But it just didn't work for me.
We'll get a chance to with one of the other special awards.
Sounds good.
What fun. What fun.
Highest to lowest. That's in the Caleb's camp of didn't catch it because of the mixed reception. But maybe I should catch it, Laron. You're like lukewarmness on a Spike Lee movie. That's curious.
It's a rarity for me. So
Dalton Stuart, what is the movie I did not get award for winner for you?
I simply don't understand what the people are thinking in their acceptance of Dan Trachtenberg's Predator Badlands.
Whoa.
Big ol' stinky poo-poo PU. A colossal step down from Prey and even Predator Killer of Killers. The worst of those three movies, and it's not close. I think I might dislike this even more than I dislike Alien Romulus, as far as a feeling of like Disney-fied former Fox properties. You know what? Fuck Predator Badlands. I'm not going to mince words. I just think it totally misses the mark. Genre movie hater of all genre movie haters, David Ehrlich liked it, and I can't look. I like what people are talking about as far as like this idea of like we're going to advance the Predator mythos forward by kind of introducing this idea of kind of questioning the core idea of like who are these alien hunters from space and like what is their culture, and examining this sort of individualistic culture that sort of is looking by doing that at American genre movies and saying we can step forward and sort of be about cooperation and collaboration. And like, obviously I think that's an important message right now. I don't think you have to add annoying video game sidekick not once but twice to do that. Crazy, insane. Like, I know Trachtenberg's a very like gaming influenced filmmaker, which I love about him, frankly. I think that's a very cool thing to be doing, is trying to bring sort of gaming is obviously, especially like narrative video gaming, is so influenced by cinema. I think it's really cool to try and bring some of that back. But having the audience surrogate character be like the codex from Mass Effect strapped to the protagonist's back, just sort of doing lore dumps, is like an idea that I kind of am into in theory, but just don't feel like they ever give that character anything to do that like broadens, them out of like, we did, the annoying fairy from Zelda. Isn't that a cute idea to put in the movie? It's like, I don't know, man, you got a Fanning here. Like, give him something to do. And that's a dual role that like, obviously a cool year for dual roles. Not really anything for either of those characters to do for my money. And look, I'm not made of stone. I like the cute little stinky guy too. I like the little spitty monster. I think he's very charming with his big dewy eyes. I just don't think I need it in a Predator movie. Or maybe that's all I need. Maybe I just need him making nice with a cute animal and not the android. Also, if we're gonna go ahead and make a PG-13 Predator movie, like we're gonna like build it around him killing Weyland-Yutani sense, so we can make it PG-13 budget and try to get a PG-13 return. I don't know, man. Maybe rip some more synthetic spines out. Where's all that goopy milk blood from Alien?
Did we watch the same movie? Did we? I think we watched a different movie. It's okay. Well,
do not recommend, do not pass go, do not collect $200. I tried the entire runtime to get on its wavelength, and the entire time I was like, this is not landing for me at all.
That breaks my heart because I kind of loved it. And when you describe the movie you just described, it sounds like so antithetical to the movie I know I watched. So that can speak to listeners how sometimes, one approach works really well for someone. It does not work for someone else. Because I like all the stuff you said you didn't like. Everything you said you didn't like, I liked. And then the one thing I liked the little dude. That's the one thing I was like, yeah, I didn't really need that guy. I don't know.
Art is subjective. What can you say?
That's for sure. Yeah. But you know what? I appreciate your honest opinions. And, one thing I can agree on, even though I disagree with your overall, it is undeniably the first Predator movie that feels like it's owned by Disney. I will say that. Now, I think that overwhelmingly, the swings it takes for me, it works with, but it is, I much prefer this to Alien Romulus, which is also when you watch that, you're like, oh, this is definitely the Disney Alien movie. And that movie feels like it's playing it safe at every turn. Whereas this one took different swings, but I appreciate and respect that, Dalton. Sorry it didn't work for you.
I feel like I agree that I will say I do think it is my least favorite of the three. That said, I do still like it. I do still like it quite a bit. I had a good time with it. But I have all the same issues I think both of you are alluding to, but that did not diminish the entertainment value for me. I don't think it's as deep or as philosophical as the first two, but I do think that they took some bold swings. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But it was a perfectly like I could see this is still. I'm so glad it was in a movie theater. You know what I mean? In the way that I wish. Yeah. In a way that I wish that Prey was.
Was. Yeah.
And it's just, it does feel like, it was a little bit too late, but we got there, but it's still, for me, it was still a good time, but.
Yeah, Prey just feels so practical and lived in, and Badlands just ends up becoming such a polygon smash 'em up by the end that I was just like, I can't believe the same guy made these movies. I really just, oof. What are you gonna do?
I thought he won up. I mean, it's different. He was definitely working with way more VFX in Badlands than he was with Prey, even though both were VFX heavy. But I thought he was able to bring the weight of the practical to the CG, because I actually, all the synth ripping up and the creature fighting, all that worked pretty well for me, which is surprising because I don't always go for that. A lot of times it's just CG slop that feels weightless, and I did not feel that way. I thought the action was pretty well shot too, but teach their own. It's okay. It is a movie that came out. I'm glad Dan Trachtenberg's still making movies. Maybe he'll do something different next. We can hope. Okay. The movie. Oh wait, no, mine. Okay, sorry, Laron. I'm sorry. I just got to come out.
I knew it's coming.
It's coming, and I'm not going to belabor my increasing disdain for the Wicked franchise. I tried really hard with the first one, and I said, you know what? There are things I like about this, and if they really get at it, the stuff I like about the themes in part two, this will all be worth it. And my friends, I'm here to tell you, if you did not listen to my review, where Laron had to sit and listen to me really talk poorly of the second movie, I did not like it. I felt like everything good it had going for it from part one, they just dropped it almost completely, and traded the interesting ideas for what felt like written on the internet by a 15-year-old fan fiction. And every respect that I could qualify, from the weird, cheeky, bad dialogue to she's gonna. It also did a pet peeve of mine where a character dies and they're still alive actually, and then they run away with their secret lover. It just felt very fangirly not even fangirl, fan fictiony, because I know a lot of guys who like these movies. All that's to say, if Wicked made you happy, and I do know it really made a lot of people happy, I'm happy for you, and I do not want to take that joy away from you. Live your best life. Let the songs from Wicked give you fuel to get through the day-to-day. Please do not mistake me for hating you. But what I can say is, despite my most valiant efforts to get Wicked Part 2 only confirmed that this is firmly not a thing for Caleb. Even though I admire the music and I really like the two lead performances quite a lot, but the story is just not working for me on a number of levels. So I did not get Wicked. And as a small aside, Now You See Me franchise, I No one was asking for a sequel. You know what? I said that until I started telling people who were not film heads that I had reviewed the new one. And turns out a lot of people really like those movies. And I don't understand why. I don't, but like the normies, like the people who only go to the films like 3 or 4 times a year, they think it's awesome. And I'm like, I love magic, but guys, this is not it. Like, this is not magic in cinema form. This is not that. But some people just love it. So I also do not get the "now you see me, now you don't" movie. I don't get it.
That's a good pick because that I was completely blindsided by the fan base for that. I assumed everyone hated those movies.
Right.
I'd never paid attention to the box office numbers or any of the. But when I tell you, was it me and our friend Adam Corliff? You know, we went to a early press screening of that, and I was certain at like I think it was 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning. I was like, "There's going to be like 3 people in here. It's going to be us." That place was. We had to like find a spot in that spot. And they were in it. They were locked in. They were cheering. They were doing the things. And I felt like when I saw Super Mario Brothers, the first film, I was like, oh, okay. People do dig this. I'm just not the demographic for this. And that's okay. That's okay. It's for somebody. They were eating it up like catnip. That is a surprise to me because those movies feel so derivative of literally, I mean, they're, you know what I mean? Like, what is it? Like The Illusionist or The Prestige or the like movies about magic that have something to say, you know, like these feel like soulless cash grabs with a really awesome
all the
cast.
magic's just blatant CG.
Yeah. You know. So how is it have any impact for you guys? I mean, you know, they disappear. It's not even special because it's, you know what I mean? Like you said, it's all digital. So it feels very, I don't know, but people like it, man. People like it.
And it didn't make as much money as the last 2, but it still made really good money. It definitely made a profit. So there is an audience for those movies. I don't understand. And this is why we have this award.
They even winked at a new one. I was like, wow, okay. This is a franchise. So,
Confidence. Yes, absolutely. Well, let's move on to our next special award, which is the movie they didn't get. So this is the opposite. It's a movie that you love for one reason or another that either critically was panned or audiences simply did not show up to support it and embrace it. And I'll throw it to you first, Dalton Stuart. What was the movie they didn't get?
It is The Fifth Collaboration by Spike Lee and Denzel Washington.
Man. Your moment has come.
Take your like you said, Laron. Here we go. In that, it is so hard to know what to do with Denzel at this point in his career. There's no one like him. He is one of one. And what I think Spike does really wisely here is let him be that guy. As you said, the movie kind of feels like it's asleep sometimes. I think it's because, like, even as stressed out as this character is, he's always like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm played by Denzel Washington. I'll figure this out. This will be fine. And like, there is an assuredness to like their dynamic that I think is really great. I also just always love Spike's admiration for New York City. Just, letting a big parade kind of throw a total wrench in the goings on of the movie.
That is a good scene.
Is great. Yeah, it's a great scene and a really cool set piece, but I also think is just like an interesting love letter to sort of the fabric of the city, right? And just sort of the people that make it up. And, being a love letter to that multicultural aspect of New York, while also like letting, the story be impacted by that in a way that says like, you're never in control in this city. Some shit's going on that you did not account for, which is really fun. And again, you mentioned the sort of the climactic standoff, face-off in the recording booth. I just love where the movie closes up there. And I am having a lot of fun with Jeffrey Wright getting to, after, having his moment as a leading man for American Fiction, getting to do a classic Jeffrey Wright, like and or with credit and just being excellent with it. I also played this game
very
Dispatch.
Black. He's very, very black in that role, and I appreciate that. Unapologetically black.
The sort of the soulful ex-con could so easily be like a stereotype, right? And like it's Jeffrey Wright, so that's a whole guy. He's so awesome in it. And again, I just had such a good time with the movie. I love all of their collaborations, and I get where you're coming from, Laron. This is probably the least of the times they've worked together. I don't think I can deny that. But I will say I think it is definitely a great time at the movies, and an interesting look at a music industry in flux right now, right? And
Yeah.
obviously, I think in some ways, Spike isn't quite, he's kind of showing his age and maybe the way he doesn't really have a ton to say about the modern music industry. But it is ultimately a movie by rich guys about a rich guy, and I kind of think that they don't pretend that that's not the case in a way that I think
Yeah.
is kind of
I
interesting
mean,
and
yeah,
doesn't insult our intelligence as audience
sure.
members.
Well, here's one thing. This is the biggest bone I have to pick with that movie, and we've
Okay.
talked about it before off camera. The score for me
Mm-hmm.
is a creative choice that I'm normally like, it can make or break something. Sometimes it won't even register that it's there because it's not very memorable. For me, it was memorably grating to the point where I was like, are they going to do this the entire movie? Because it is taking me out of every scene. And I almost wonder, like, if the score had been even just very straight man, just very simple, barely there, if that would have, because I can tell you every time I heard that score flaring up, because Caleb, you haven't seen it, it
I've
feels
heard.
like elevator music.
Yeah.
Like it's just very like, it feels like a soap opera, but it's blaring, it's loud, it's not even like it's in the room there while they're having conversations. And I didn't think it added anything to the atmosphere of this movie. If anything, it felt just like this egregious thing that wasn't supposed to be there, that somehow for whatever reason I couldn't get on its wavelength, because it was telling me to feel a certain way and the scene was doing something else, and they were just incongruous and it just didn't work. But that's, I think, is the thing that stuck out to me the most. The story, I think, was just very like fine in terms of the way he was telling it, but so not offensive in any way. I probably would have been maybe a star higher, but the score for me was just, it was really bad. And and I've heard this from people as well, but some people it didn't bother them and they felt like it was an interesting creative choice. So I'm interested about that.
That's where I land ultimately. I will say, when the movie was early on, I was like, oh, this is weird. This is
Yeah.
interesting. Like in the early scenes, I was definitely kind of taken aback and like, oh, I don't know what I expected this score to be, but it wasn't this.
Yeah.
And I eventually came around on it, but I definitely hear where you're coming from on that. As far as like, it's a choice, and it's kind of a
And
weird
he stuck
one.
to it.
But
He
I
stuck to
also,
it. It
and
just
yeah,
didn't work.
exactly. And then something about him sticking to it, I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm coming around on this.
Yeah. Because I want to hear it disembodied from the movie, just like, because I'm like, there's no way he heard this and was like, that's it. That's the vibe I'm going for. I was like, oh man, okay. But anyway, yeah, okay.
Well, what's interesting to me is, having not seen the film, he also did the remake of Old Boy, which I also was not crazy about. And it's just bizarre because he's not just like he's not remaking mid movies that could have been done better. No, he's like, I want to remake masterpieces. And that's, having not seen Highest to Lowest, I can just say, trying to remake an Akira Kurosawa film that is beloved is a very ambitious undertaking. And the fact that it wasn't universally despised is a testament to how much people like Spike Lee and appreciate that he takes swings, whether they landed for everyone or not. It's pretty bold, I have to say, Spike Lee, on your choices. Laron, Chapman, what is your winner for the movie They Did Not Get award?
Okay, this is another twofer for me, but what I'll say is the first choice is Celine Song's The Materialist. I don't know what was not working for a lot of people who I know loved Past Lives. But I felt like, as rom-coms go, like, this was a thoughtful film. This was an introspective film. I felt like the characters were dynamic. I felt like when you put Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal as the romantic leads, and you asked me to hate either one of them, and you can't find a reason for me to, and then you understand the dilemma that she's going through, is because neither one of these people are bad. It's really about, what does this woman want, and what do we want from relationships by extension of that. And I love the drama of that. I love the idea because typically in a lesser romantic comedy, and I don't even know if I'd even call it a romantic comedy in a traditional sense. It's definitely it leans more drama than com, like so. Um, I just found that tension was really refreshing, where I was actually invested in, like who is the best person for this person, because they both have these attributes that are worthwhile. There's not this obvious bad character it's so clear who she's going to end up with at the end of this movie. And I found that it had more interesting conversations, like deep, mature conversations that we have in relationships, particularly at our age, this demographic, this generation. Those one-on-one conversations was really engaging, because I'm like, I've had that argument, and I've been in that place, and I've been in that relationship where it didn't hit those familiar formulaic beats that you would expect from this particular kind of movie. Which was unsurprising, because it was Celine's song. She already wrote this really great movie about kind of a romantic triangle, if you will. And a lot of people were so cool on this, and I found like it was kind of a very adequate, sophomore effort for her.
It's very
in that
respectable
space.
sophomore outing. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's doesn't reach the emotional devastation of Past Lives, but I don't think it was aiming to. She was making a different kind of movie and just doing a really, more complex three-dimensional take on it. And and a lot of people just really did not work for them, but I found it to be, a really good sophomore effort from her. And I'm actually very excited about her My Best Friend's Wedding take, because apparently she's doing that. So I'll be curious to see how she does in a more commercial setting. So
I got to catch up with Materialists. I've been curious about this thing all year because of the conversation happening around it.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, because I think, Caleb, you were pretty similar. I think you were also pretty warm on it, considering.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was quite as warm as you, but I was pretty close. Like I blind bought the movie on Blu-ray because I hadn't seen it, and I had like a coupon at Vintage Stock or something, and bought it. And I was like, watched it, really liked it. I actually liked it more than my wife. She didn't hate it. She was cooler than me. I was surprised, but I was like, no, I dug it. It's a very different type of story, but in the same way that Past Lives is sort of exploring the nuances of adult relationships in a really thoughtful, introspective way. I thought this movie did something similar in a way that I really appreciated, and it did not fall back on tropes at any point. But I was very surprised to see there was a lot of people I respect even, who were like really coming in cold on the movie. Sorry, don't worry. Dalton and I think Past Lives, when that came out, I want to say that was I know Dalton was in You and Mize, and I think even Laron, I think it was in all of our top film that year. So Dalton, whenever you get around to it, it was my top 5 as well. So Dalton, whenever you get around to it, I'm looking forward to your Letterboxd review. I'll say that.
Thank you.
And really quick, Caleb, my second one was Presence, the Soderbergh film. I really adored this film. I loved both of the movies he released last year. And for me, Presence, it's like you have a film with a gimmick, and then you stick to the gimmick, and it never gets old, and it continues to work its entire runtime for me. And you get, it wasn't really about the scares. It was actually about this really thorny human familial drama that I found even more riveting than the conceit, and then it just ended emotionally very well for me. And like, it really stuck the landing. And I really think if it had ended differently, maybe I would have some more gripes about it, but it rewarded my time. Like we invest our time with these characters, some of which are not easy to be around, and then for it to land as strongly as it did emotionally for me, I was like, it just really worked. And I think that I love Soderbergh being able to just go into his toy box and play with any genre. And I'm gonna try this, and I'm gonna do this, and do unconventional things. And this is one of those ones that just really worked for me, that I think I didn't hear much about from other people. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, Laron. Both of those releases from him this year really stuck with me all year. I loved both of those movies.
So it's a nice little segue into, I also have a twofer. So we'll start with the Soderbergh release, Black Bag, movie the three of us talked about on this podcast. Now, we at this podcast got the movie, but no one else seemed to have gotten the movie. We talk about a masterclass and writing, directing with top-notch actors in genre. In this case, a spy genre with basically virtually zero explosions. I think there's one explosion at the very end of the movie, but this is just old school, like made for adults, writing, directing, mid-budget movie. And I really wish that Black Bag had gotten more love throughout the year. I mean, I don't think it's that anyone who saw it didn't like it. It's just like one that it didn't break through to the mainstream in any way. And I was hoping maybe once it hit streaming, it might get a second life. But man, it has been crickets on Black Bag all year. Highly recommend people listening. If you haven't watched it, check it out. Another Steven Soderbergh movie. I think it was a great pair of films from him. I think I like Black Bag a little better, but Presence also very interesting experiment. And then just really quickly on second, my other one is The Life of Chuck, actually, because it's another one where I don't think anyone saw it. I mean, I know, Laron, you and I talked about it, and I was a lot warmer on it than you were. Dalton, I'm glad to hear that you liked it, but it's just another one that you would think for a movie that won like the Toronto International Film Festival audience award. Usually it's embraced and people talk about it. It kind of was dead on release here in the US at least. So, and I don't know, it's a movie that's just got a lot on its mind about the meaning of life, the purpose of life and death, and sort of how we come to terms with not only the world we're living in today, but also the value and impact individual lives have on this greater story. Also, truly one of Mark Hamill's best performances in the last 20 years that I really hope rallies somewhere in the awards season sprint towards the Oscars. I don't think it's an Oscar nom quite, but I think it's of that caliber for him, especially since it's so dramatically different than, like Luke Skywalker or something like that. So Life of Chuck, highly recommend that one. It's not going to work for everyone. I know, Laron, you and I were having this ongoing conversation of it is teeter on overly sentimental, which usually I'm allergic to, by the way. But for whatever reason, I had some personal loss in the family this year that might have been in, I don't know, but it really, really hit in a really deep way because I've been thinking about it all year. So movie they didn't get, Black Bag and The Life of Chuck. All right, well, let's move on to our next special award. It's the Brian O'Connor and Dom Toretto Movie You're Most Likely to Watch or Recommend to Your Family Award. This is not necessarily a family-friendly, family-focused podcast, I should say. But, we know we have listeners out there who have families. So, Laron, Chapman, what would you give the Brian O'Connor and Dom Toretto Family Award to this year?
I also have two for this one too. I have Rental Family with Oscar winner Brendan Fraser, yes, and also actually The Life of Chuck.
Nice.
I actually think that both of these films are really getting at that familial touch, and I do feel like if like I said, as much as Life of Chuck didn't really work for me, and I do need to see it again because you're two people I respect very deeply, and if it hits you there, then maybe I was just not in the right mood that day, and that happens. That has happened to me. I've gone back and rewatched movies and say, I don't know what I was thinking. This is great. But there was something about the kind of maybe the way it wore its heart on its sleeve a little too, it was heavy for me. I was like, oh, this is almost cloying to hear just how much narration and kind of like, it felt kind of had this Forrest Gumpian vibe to it, but not like in a good way. I feel like this was a movie I saw midday in the middle. It was a little sleepy, to be honest with you. It was in and out of consciousness toward the middle of it. And so, but I do think that as I've been hearing from other people, particularly people like you mentioned who've experienced loss in any type of way, that it hits a different way. It hits a different way in that sense. And then similarly, I feel like Rental Family, not the best film I saw all year, but definitely one that definitely felt like a warm hug. That is also like any movies about dads and daughters and that kind of thing always just gets to the heart, touches my heart. So I felt like those were two movies that I think I could easily recommend to my mom or dad, and I think they would eat it up. So those are two heartwarming dramas that came out last year that I think families
can all use some heartwarming dramas in our life. The year of our Lord 2025. Dalton Stuart, who is your winner of the Brian O'Connor and Dom Toretto Family Award winner?
Well, look, I don't think my mother could ever get all the way through Marty Supreme, but I think if she did, she'd find its family affirming message very powerful. I will instead recommend a movie both my parents would probably like. I think my dad would fuck with Marty Supreme in a big way. But I'm going to pick a little scene film that we also played at Oklahoma Film Exchange this year, and it is Dead, E in parentheses, so Dead Dad, from Isabella Rowland of Dropout TV fame. This is a movie she wrote and that was directed by her mom and stars, one of her Dropout TV co-stars, Vic Michaelis, and a lot of her actual family. I know I just mentioned having a dad. I have two of them, and one of them is no longer with us. And so I definitely loved this interesting exploration of losing a parent and this premise of what do you do if your dad's haunting everybody but you because you had beef with him when he died because he was kind of an irresponsible addict and you weren't ready to forgive him when he kicked. Really powerful at times, really funny movie. It's definitely available for streaming now. It's kind of specialty streaming, so it's a little hard to find. But it is out there. You should definitely check it out. I think if you as long as your family's not too itchy about swears, I think it is a very charming film about coming together as a group in the face of loss. Caleb, I also had a pretty tough year with loss. My living father, my adopted dad, lost both of his siblings this year. So pretty tough stuff. And I think this film really does have both a very clever wit, but also a very tender heart. And I think that's a fun combination for a movie to share with your family.
Yeah. All right. Those are great recommends. Also, I didn't have Life of Chuck down here, Laron, but that's a great recommend as well. So I'll second that. I just went way more generic with this, guys. I've been superhero fatigued for years, but you know what I love? I love Superman. And you know who I don't think has been done right on the big screen in at least 30 plus years? Superman. So I was really excited to see that James Gunn did a good Superman movie where he actually understands the character. A character who has a moral compass, who believes in humans, who is human first, godlike being second. And he stands for ideals that, truth, justice, and all that other stuff, as they would say in some of these other, spinoffs or other versions of the character. This is,
which apparently a lot of people forgot that he represented when they saw the film, because they were very upset that these ideals that he was upholding were ones that were always there, that I guess they were just missing the mark on.
Apparently, Superman continuing to stick true to Superman makes him woke somehow. We're not here to litigate that. All I'm saying is Superman been done right, and it was great, and it was fulfilling. And other than the fact that there is someone who gets shot in the head point blank with a gun in the middle of the movie, it's actually pretty family friendly if you just remove that one scene that feels like a little extra. But it was nice to see these iconic characters who represent larger ideals on the screen in such a human way. Of course, you have David Cornsweet as Superman, Clark Kent, and then you have Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. And also, I think we also get the best Lois Lane we've ever had on the screen. I'll say that now. I'm sure some people disagree, but anyway, it was nice to see a superhero movie about something which is about working together, putting others first, serving your communities, fighting for truth, sticking up to lies and greed and corruption. Things that we used to believe deep down, we all kind of knew weren't good. Well, the movie, the movie wears its feelings on its sleeve, but the whole line that maybe being, doing the right thing's punk rock now. You know what I mean? So again, huge kudos to James Gunn. And I think it's a very wholesome movie for most of the family. Maybe wait until your kids are around 9 or 10 or 11 or so. But other than that, I think it actually has a lot to offer people of all ages. And if we're going to get more superhero movies, please, for the love of God, make them about something that actually matters. That is my award winner for the Brian O'Connor and Dom Toretto Award. Let's move on to our next special award, which is the movie you're least likely to watch or recommend to your parents award. And I'll just start us off to keep things moving. Bring Her Back. Bring Her Back. Absolutely, under no context would I even think about watching that next to any of my relatives, not even my parents. I wouldn't even, right? My siblings would watch it. The siblings who are into cool movies and stuff would be like, what the fuck are you watching, Caleb? What is this? Super not going to watch that one with the family. Bring Her Back. That is one for the film heads if I've ever seen one. But it's certainly not one I would recommend to pretty much anyone. But I think it's really good at what it's doing. But I also wouldn't recommend it. There we go. Laron Chapman, what is the movie you're least likely to watch or recommend to your parents?
It's fun. It's ironic that both of these movies are about mothers, but I wouldn't recommend them to mine. If I had legs, I'd kick you and Die My Love. Two movies I have tremendous respect for and definitely show motherhood as like, damn, isn't that shit hard? And man, so I felt like these movies put you in the psychology of motherhood, whether it's postpartum depression or just actually doing the mothering. And I felt like we got two like career best performances from Rose Byrne and Jennifer Lawrence this year. Both of these movies are hard sits. I'm not gonna lie to you; like they're anxiety-inducing throughout the entire runtime, and they're an endurance test in many ways. But I do think they were both very artfully done, very insightful. But definitely, maybe unless your mom is, super artistically inclined or a cinephile, these are not wholesome movies, so I wouldn't recommend them to my mom. Also, I don't know if my mom wants to see Jennifer Lawrence naked crawling like a tiger in the meadow. That may not be up her bark. Even though it was up for me, I don't think she'd be into that as much.
Only the cool moms watch that.
Yeah,
one, right?
Only the cool moms. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, mom, you're cool, but in different ways.
That was a joke. Laron's mom, you're super cool because you raised Laron, but also that's a wild.
Yes.
That's a wild.
Yeah.
It's a wild scene. Dalton Stuart, what is the movie you're least likely to watch with your parents? Does it involve a paddle?
No, I am similarly not showing my parents Die My Love. No shot. Not just the least of which because it is like a little experimental, very anxiety inducing. And yeah, about familial dynamics and drives. I don't want to be thinking about sitting next to my family. But I'll give a little love to Allison Brie and Dave Franco in Together. I don't want to be thinking about relationships in that way with my family. I don't want to be dealing with like personhood and codependence and sexuality next to my family. Hey, love to see one of the great recent teamings of an actual couple. Feel like that's a feature of 90s cinema we don't have around much these days. So like that movie a lot, but definitely I'm not going to watch it with anybody I'm related to.
That's a great pick. Together. Don't watch that together with your family. Oh, yeah, man, memorable.
That's to watch with your partner and probably no one else.
I'm afraid to watch that with my partner.
Yeah.
Even. I don't know what that might unlock.
I was going to say only if you're on a strong foundation with that partner. Because I
love my wife dearly, but every time the idea of watching Marriage Story comes up, for example, I'm like,
you got to do it.
I'm very confident in our relationship, but this is just one movie we probably don't want to watch together.
No, you definitely want to watch it.
I don't want to give them any material for our next arguments. I don't need that. I've quoted a few movies in my arguments, and so I don't want that same kind of karma coming my way.
Well, let's move on to our seventh special award, the movie you'd wish you'd seen on the big screen award. Now, this frankly could be for any movie that you missed and caught at home, but also maybe more specifically movies that were, owned by a streamer like Netflix, or a direct to streaming movie like that goes straight to HBO Max, something along those lines. Laron Chapman, what is the movie you wish you'd seen on the big screen?
The movie, I saw very, very few movies I did not get a chance to see in theaters. I was fortunate enough to do that, but there was one I did miss in theaters and only got to watch at home because I don't think it got a theatrical release. And that was Train Dreams. This is a movie that, we want to talk about contenders for best cinematography this year. That's a movie that still was gorgeous, at home, but I can imagine seeing that, on a big screen being really, really transporting and just a really moving piece of cinema that I really wish more people would get a chance to see. And they can. It's on Netflix, but it's just a matter of getting the word out for that particular movie, because it does seem like, even as experimental as I think it kind of is in some respects, I think it's pretty palatable for general audiences as well. So and I had a really good time with that one, and I really hope more people get to see it. And sad I didn't get to see it on the
Well,
big screen.
I had the same pick actually, so I'll echo those sentiments. It's like Terrence Malick, but more mainstreamy, like more palpable. You know what I mean? It's there's enough narrative there for you to like track a story. And the ideas kind of come together more cohesively than a Terrence Malick film would. But it's also very much a movie that's a reflection on life, death, the moment we're in, a human relationship to technology, and how that changes. Oftentimes changes how we think about what our purpose in the world is. An incredible film. The cinematography is easily top 3 of the year, like easily, if not number 1. And it is a shame that I watched that at home in my living room. I wish I could have seen it on the big screen. I think it got a very limited theatrical release, as most Netflix films do. But listeners, do not sleep on Train Dreams. It is actually, you're going to hear about it again later in the episode, but it is a fantastic film that's beautiful. Watch it on the biggest screen you can find, even if that's the TV in your own home. Dalton Stuart, what is the movie you wish you'd seen on the big screen this year?
Man, I wish I'd gotten to see The Naked Gun with a big rowdy crowd. I watched that on my couch with my wife, and we had a hell of a time. Boy, would I have loved to have seen that at like 9 p.m. on a Friday. You know, just didn't get out in time. Didn't really feel like it had that long of a run. But what a joy to have, big, silly, decidedly stupid studio comedy back. And again, we need more movies about how police officers are not smart. And we need them to be played by Liam Neeson.
Yes.
If only to commit to a bit, if only to commit to a Leslie Nielsen, Liam Neeson bit. Like, that's just funny, dude. I don't know what to tell you. That's comedy. Akiva Schaffer and team really nailed it with this one. I would have loved to have seen this with one of my most...
Man's laughter kills me. It's like man's
so
laughter.
Funny.
Man's
there's so many good. The commitment to every joke in that movie. Like I think there's my 2 favorite ones are the Mrs. Fatso Big Head. What was it? Mrs. Fatso Spaghetti or whatever. Like the fake name. And then like every time that character sees her throughout the movie, he just calls her Miss Spaghetti or Miss Fathead Bozo Spaghetti. Like it's so stupid. And then.
Yeah. It's the straight face to the
yes.
the
and then there's also a DVR. There's also a DVR joke in that movie that goes. It's for such a specific group of people, like the ones on this podcast, and it just goes so hard. It's incredible. So funny.
There's the whole commitment to him being obsessed with like 2000s culture is such a stupid premise that I love that they commit to. The only things that were electric in my day were guitars and Catherine Zeta-Jones in Chicago or whatever it is. That's so stupid, man.
It's incredible. Oh, man.
Yeah, good movie.
Highly recommend. See it. Watch it. Period. If you can, totally worth your time. That said, let's move on to our next special award, the biggest disappointment of 2025 awards. So not necessarily the worst overall movie, but the movie you were the most excited for, that you were the least satisfied with. And Dalton Stuart, I'll throw it back to you.
We'll keep this brief. I already said my piece about this. I was really excited for Predator Badlands. I was stoked for a Predator movie that was going to take place in like the alien part of the timeline. I thought that was a cool premise. I thought having Elle Fanning be a wisecracking Weyland-Yutani droid with no legs would be a fun way to like force a predator to talk to somebody. No, sadly not, but
no,
maybe someday.
I'm sad on your behalf. It hurts me that you did not have the same experience that I did, but it's okay.
I wish it should, and my beloved Sean Peele over at OFX, Mr. VHS and Chill himself, loved this movie. Thought it was so charming, and like he was a couple of chairs over from me, having the time of his life the whole time. I wish it could have been me.
Yeah, it happens. Laron Chapman, what is your biggest disappointment of 2025?
It's actually kind of poetic, this one I'm about to choose, because it actually was a reuniting of the 3 of us actually on a previous podcast. This is a movie I was most excited to see that just missed the mark, and that is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton, you were really cool on that one when we did the podcast. Me and Caleb were higher, but not
not
more
thrilled, but also
necessarily
trying hard to like still hang on to the
not
things
thrilled
we
about
liked, you know?
it. Hang on to things we like. But I think if I'm equating this based on the criteria of I wanted this to be a nice, like, definitive conclusion to this series, and then for it to just go back to the well and be derivative and overlong and to repeat itself, and it just did everything that, you know, it followed all the tropes that we don't like about this particular franchise, and it just made all those mistakes in the same movie. It has two incredible stunts that we mentioned and labored over during the podcast, but unfortunately, those two things don't in themselves make a good movie. And unfortunately, I think that while I don't think this movie is terrible by any means, I definitely think it's a huge disappointment for a franchise that I thought had really, you know, started cooking late in its career, so late in its filmography. So that's unfortunate. And yeah, Mission Impossible.
Same. That was also my pick. I mean, listen, listeners, we got, not only did the three of us on this podcast see this together, we got like 20 people together to go see this in the Moore Warren IMAX in Moore, Oklahoma, which is the biggest IMAX in the state. And I was amped. I was fired up. I was going to see the send off I've always dreamed of with my closest film friends. And what I can equate this to, it's the same experience of when I got all the people together to go watch The Rise of Skywalker. Now, it's not as bad as The Rise of Skywalker. This movie at least has two incredible stunts, but the feeling of like, I watched it. Oh, Dalton's like, nah, I don't know. The feeling of, what did I just watch? Why does it feel like a clip show of a TV show from like the early aughts? Like, this franchise has never done that before. It was so bizarre. It made so many choices. The story choices didn't make sense. It made so many, like, the series has historically treated the audience with respect, like we're intelligent. And this one's like constantly cutting back to scenes from previous movies, even earlier scenes in the same movie. It was a huge letdown. Again, with respect to the fact that I love the stunts, I think it's one of the greatest stunts of all time with Tom Cruise in the fighter planes or whatever. But yikes, it was so bad that not only did I not pick up the 4K, even though I bought all the other 4Ks in preparation for the movie, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't think I need to. I think I could just end it on Dead Reckoning Part 1 and pretend there was never a Part 2, because technically there's not. And, I might watch it.
The Halloween Resurrection does, man. The Halloween Resurrection.
It was a huge letdown. I was pretty bummed, but what can you do? Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Maybe it's time to put this one to bed for a while at least. Let's move on to our special award. We can do this one pretty quickly, these last couple. The Babu Frik Memorial Award. So this is an award for the best scene stealer of the year. This could be a character from the movie. It could be a joke, what have you. So Laron, Chapman, I'll throw it back to you. Who do you pick for your best scene stealer of 2025?
I will do this very fast, but when you say scene stealer, I made a post recently about the 4 best cinematic scenes of the year, and so those were featured in Weapons, Sinners, One Battle After Another, and 28 Years Later. So in Weapons, the finale, in Sinners, we all know the moment. I Lied to You, musical number, One Battle After Another, the final chase scene. And the epilogue for 28 Years Later. People hate on it. I adore it. So those are the 4 scene stealers for me of the year. So that's cheating, I know, but I can't pick a favorite amongst them. But I loved all.
Very nice. All great movies, by the way. Dalton Stuart, who would you put down as your favorite scene stealer?
My favorite scene stealer of the year was Oklahoma's very own Tracy Letts in House of Dynamite.
He is magnificent. Yes.
The coolest just wants to get home to watch the game and needs nuclear annihilation to not happen so he can go watch the game. And also podcasts from House of Dynamite for completely taking us all out of the movie at the 11th hour. What a wild film. But Tracy Letts is cooking in that thing. I love him.
Mm.
That's a movie I don't think people got either. That probably was a nice nomination because the people were pretty. We all saw that together, and I don't think it's a masterpiece by any stroke, even maybe the best movie that Catherine Bigelow's made. But I still felt like that was a good time and pretty.
It was
timely
good. It was good enough that Laron and I had like perhaps the best conversation we've ever had, and it lasted for maybe twice the length runtime of the film.
I think it's
yes. outside of Harkins.
I was present for approximately 1/3 of that conversation, and where they went after that, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it was delightful.
The places we went.
That is a House of Dynamite deserved better. Catherine Bigelow is a very talented director, and I think it's got a lot of great things going for it, even if I don't love everything about it. It's just a victim of Netflix's algorithm, if you're asking me. But I'm gonna go totally different direction. Rapid fire. Number 1, The Penny from Final Destination Bloodlines, always getting the last laugh. That one stole the scene for me. Number 2, Dalton's not going to like this one. Elle Fanning, Thea in Predator Badlands. I loved the talking Navi friend companion that was on her back, and I especially loved the behind-the-scenes footage where you saw a dude walking around with Elle Fanning wearing green stockings. That was great. And last but certainly not least, we got Jack O'Connell's Irish dancing in Sinners. That stole a lot of scenes for me. Watched Sinners last night, and let me tell you, that scene still makes me laugh like no other. How silly and ridiculous it is in the context of the movie you're watching. Those are my scene stealers for 2025. Gentlemen, we're running low on time, so let's just get right to our top 5 films of 2025, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, so let's start with our number 5 movie of 2025. Dalton Stuart, our returning guest for this tradition, what is your number 5 movie of the year?
I know I try to keep my list pretty eclectic usually and try to spread the love over a lot of different stuff and a lot of different themes. It's a boys' year, unfortunately. It's kind of dudes rock all the way down in my top 5. All of these movies are dealing with masculinity in some way, shape, or form. It was kind of the theme of the year for me in many ways. And first up, we have Andrew DeYoung's incredible debut, Friendship, starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd.
Hello? Howdy.
Honey, the new neighbor invited you over for a drink at 8 tonight. I said you'd go.
You don't know my schedule.
You sit there every night. Might be nice to have a pal, a bud.
Maybe the funniest movie about adult male friendship I've ever seen, and a movie that made me very glad I made a lot of good friends doing sketch comedy in my mid-20s, so I don't have to worry about this kind of bullshit.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
So
really
start
insane.
podcast to make friends. That's
Well, hey, and that'll help too. This movie's so deranged. I had such a great time at it. I nominated Kate Mara for Best Supporting Actor in our Oklahoma Film Critics Circle nominations. She's giving such an insane, incredible performance in that movie that is right on pace with everything the guys are doing. And it's such an interesting exploration of this man, his marriage, and his attempt to try and reach out and make a friend.
I still haven't seen it, by the way, so this only motivates me more to see it even more. Yeah, go ahead, Laron.
No, I had a really awkward experience with that. I also love the film. It's cringe comedy at its best, I think, is the review I gave it. But but I saw it with an audience of people who did not. It was just crickets the whole time. So it's very rare that you hear me being the only one cackling in a theater. So I felt cringe being the only one laughing at the cringe comedy in that theater. But you know what? Those people were all wrong. And they should probably, they need better friends themselves. So that's how I'll put that.
Yeah, I was blessed to. I got to see it with two very interesting crowds. I did a weekend road trip to Dallas and saw it. The only 5 people in a matinee at the Angelica in Dallas, and we were losing our minds because we're all Tim Robinson fans. And then weirdly, it ended up playing the Art Museum here in OKC, and got to see it with kind of a weird mix of ages and demographics, and everybody was on board with it in a way I was shocked by. At the very least, the elderly couple who I expected to hate it in front of me were laughing their asses off, and that alone was proof to me that this movie can work with a lot of different audiences.
Great recommend, Friendship. That's one that definitely I haven't seen it yet, but I from the people like yourself, Dalton, and I know a couple other people love this movie, so I really got to catch up with it. Laron Chapman, what is your number 5 movie of the year?
My number 5 movie of the year is one I really wish more people would talk about. It's called Sorry Baby.
Do you miss me, even though you're married?
So grown up.
It's so grown up.
School was
Grad school was,
I like it here, though.
Are you sure?
What are you up to this fine evening?
I was wondering, do you have like stuff that makes a fire?
Why do you need it?
My friends and I were gonna make like hot dogs.
Hot dog sounds good.
I'm sorry, we only bought 2 hot dogs.
It was a really, really stunning debut film by Ava Victor, also a fellow comedian turned filmmaker, who shadow directed. I saw the TV Glow, and I loved hearing that connection. So actually, the movie was co-directed in preparation for this particular movie, and it's such a delicate and devastating movie that somehow manages in very understated ways to be very warm and laugh out loud funny, even when dealing with very, very heavy subject matter like sexual assault. And you can tell this is a very personal story. It's told in a very similar narrative structure as like Weapons, but not in a way that's gimmicky, in a way that actually culminates to something very, very, very profound at the end. And just a really stunning ode to friendship, and also just how we persevere in the aftermath of trauma, and how some people find humanity in some of the most unlikely places. And so a very, very, very moving film that I really, really loved, and I really want to recommend more people watch it. It's on HBO Max right now, so please check it out. Very, very, very
up there with If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, for sort of like 2 like female fronted performances that I was really excited to hear about and just like did not get to them. So this has gone way up on my list.
Well, firstly, no excuses, people. It's on HBO Max. Oh wait, 3 fingers pointing back at me, because once again, Laron made a very passionate recommendation to me that I want to watch that I failed to get through this year, and it will happen, Laron, and we will talk about it. But again, you've been preaching about the preaching, shouting the mountaintops since you saw it that this is one of the best movies of the year. So happy to hear it stuck it out to your top 5. My number 5 is a cheat. I'll try to keep it brief, but it's more of a 5-6 combo, and ask me tomorrow, it'll be a flip-flop. It's the combo Train Dreams and No Other Choice. Now, the reason I'm struggling with these films, because in me there are 2 wolves, one that wants to be deeply cynical and one that wants to be optimistic. And I feel like these movies in a very different way are really reflecting on our relationship with technology, and how technologies oftentimes reshape the purpose we have in our life, or potential purpose. And they're coming at it from 2 very different angles. No Other Choice being deeply cynical, Train Dreams being a lot more optimistic and more inspirational. Train Dreams, I think I've said before, like probably most of us since high school or whatever, when you're just like shooting the shit with your friends and people who have history, I'm like, it would be an interesting time to be alive? The late 1800s, and you'll be 100 in the late 1800s, right? Because you start where it's still like horse-drawn carriage, railroads, and by the time you die, people are flying in airplanes and we've landed on the moon. That seems kind of crazy, right? Like in terms of technological evolutions that happen in one lifetime, that seems to be a really interesting one based on how tech has evolved, into World War I, especially after World War II, and now here we are now. And I think the movie Train Dreams is sort of really speaking like the idea that like our purpose is not in the work we do. It is not the moment you live in that defines who you are. And oftentimes these moments come and go. Sometimes you can think you find a purpose in one place only to realize that that's not it. And those things that you think give you purpose are not who you are. It is really the life you lived, how you've paid it forward, the relationships you've invested in, no matter how long or short they've lasted, that truly give us purpose. This is the optimistic message. No Other Choice is not saying that at all. It is, look at how cynical, how awful technology and automation is ruining like the psyche of people across the globe, because their jobs are being taken away, despite the fact that they've been told for their entire lives that their job is the most important thing they're going to do so they can like pay their bills. And anyway, tiebreaker, I feel like they're both exploring similar ideas from very different perspectives, and I couldn't pick just one, so I wanted to pair them together. With that said, let's move on to our number 4. Laron Chapman, what is your number 4 pick of 2025?
This one's gotten a lot of coverage on this podcast, but Sentimental Value is my number 4 choice.
Why didn't you want to do the role? He wanted you to do it.
I can't work with him. We can't really talk.
My father is a very difficult person.
It seems like this is also a pretty common theme this year, between this and some other ones that I'll probably mention later. But trauma, generational trauma, and the different ways that art is used as a conduit for us to kind of process, internalize, and kind of illuminate for ourselves what things that we don't know in our subconscious that have led us to be in the places that we are in life, and it just kind of underscores and reemphasizes the value and the merit of art, and things like AI are never going to be able to touch those kinds of things. And I think that that's what's most important. I won't remember some of the spectacles I saw last year, but I will remember how movies like this made me feel, and the kind of conversations and the way that I reevaluated my own life after watching it, and wanted to pick up on certain things. And it just gets to the nuance of trauma in ways that I found really, really, really complex and thoughtful. So sentimental value.
Great pick. Didn't quite crack my top 5, but it made its way pretty close in those last weeks of the year. Dalton Stuart, what is your number 4 movie of 2025?
Staying on this theme of masculinity, we have a film about the transitory period between being a boy and being a man, and it is 28 Years Later from Danny Boyle and Alex Garland.
7, 6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boot, 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 boot. Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Boot, 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 boot. Moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war.
I didn't get to Alex Garland's other screenplay this year. Really wasn't interested in that one, but was very, very interested in what was going on in 28 Years Later. I feel like these two filmmakers bring out the best in each other. Can't wait to see what Nia DaCosta does in just a few weeks' time with Bone Temple. That's going to be crazy. See what continues to evolve out of this interesting portrait of post-apocalyptic British culture. I think Boyle and Garland do such a good job of sort of examining their own cultural context and sort of zooming out, and especially the incredible Boots montage that to the Rudyard Kipling poem of the same name is such an incredible thesis statement for the movie as young Spike sets off on his journey. And then again, the movie kind of reveals itself to have this interesting 2-act structure, and it becomes about dealing with your relationships with both of your parents and the complications there. And, kind of up there, we'll see how this develops in the next film. But I feel like it is up there with some of the great horror movies about how scary your dad can be. And that's not even really one of the main things in the movie, but it is such an interesting note that they play with very interestingly, and easily the best Aaron Taylor Johnson performance ever. I think he's extremely well used in this movie, and I'm a really big fan of really all the performance. Ray Fiennes coming in at the 11th hour with a great performance, and of course Jodie Comer, I don't know, always kills it, and is great in this as sort of an ethereal sort of idea of a dead mom. And obviously the movie doesn't give her as much to do as it should, and she really is being asked to kind of play the idea of a woman, but she brings so much depth and humanity to this mother losing her mind, and knowing that she's her hours and days are limited, and what she's going to be able to share with her son is waning by the day. So again, and I haven't even got to all the great gore and the great thrills and the kind of weird sense of humor. That's just the parental stuff I think is really profound and well explored in this film. And that's not even mentioning just a guy gets his head ripped off. That's crazy. The zombie's got a huge hog. What's that about? Masculinity problem.
It's a very right. it's a very humanist
Yeah.
film, and especially, and that's a weird thing to say about a end of the world post-apocalyptic movie, because normally the opposite. It's normally about the nihilism of man, and this is really about getting back to that, that core that sustained us for all those years prior. And so, yeah, I was really surprised how moving of a movie
Yeah.
it is for the type of movie.
It's kind of beautiful the way, obviously, like, it says a bunch of scary stuff about how we kind of like isolate and militarize in times of fear, right? But I think you're right, Laron, that it also, in Ray
Yep.
Fiennes, we see like, no, maybe actually being freed from the structures of capitalism allows us to like listen to the better angels of our nature and sort of look at everybody's innate humanity. Yeah, put my skull at the top of
Yeah.
the bone temple, baby.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. You can put mine right next to it because my number 4 movie is also 28 years later. You guys have said so much of it. I just want to echo everything Dalton says is correct. I think the way that the movie is about parenthood on 2 different sides of 2 acts, nailed it. You can hear me actually talk about it, well, on this podcast, but also on Dalton's podcast, the GoodTrash Genre Cast. I've just talked about this movie a lot this year. I think the only thing I'd add, and Laron, you were sort of hinting at this, is not only are we getting a movie that's sort of a follow-up 28 days later, this is a movie, a follow-up to 28 days later from the people who made that movie. They made that movie when they were younger, scrappier filmmakers with no money, a lot of ambition and enthusiasm. What we see here is a follow-up to that film that shows a great deal of maturity in both talents. And again, it's not that they were inexperienced when they made 28 Days Later, but you're looking at a survivalist movie sort of about the rage virus and how it's consuming, in that case, the UK. And this is something I think there's a lot of parallels between that film and sort of these demons we've been battling also here in America. And you get to see after over 20 years, we get a follow-up that brings a certain degree of sensitivity and nuance and just better filmmaking that these guys, both of these guys, Garland and Boyle, have exhibited throughout their careers since. And I think it's absolutely stellar filmmaking. I think it looks stunning. I love the soundtrack, one of my tops of the year. And I think if I was just going to sum it up is, if we've been looking at the zombie genre as a survivalist text, at least in pop culture for at least 25 years, if not since the origin of, the George Romero Night of the Living Dead zombie film, this movie supposes, what if we should treat all life with sanctity? What if even the infected lives are lives that we should give credence to? And maybe it's not about survival. Maybe it's about coexisting with the sort of world that we live in and those that we see as other. And I think it's just a way more nuanced film than it has any right to be. And after we've kind of been through this boom and then bust of the zombie genre, it's great to see these guys come back, which is so much more perspective and bigger ideas, so much more than they even had in the original film. And I cannot wait to see where we go with the Bone Temple. All that said, let's move on to our number 3 movie of 2025. Dalton Stuart, I'll throw it back to you. What is your number 3 movie of the year?
Well, Caleb, you've already said a lot of cool and nice and interesting things about this movie, so I don't know that I'll belabor it too much, but, yet another banger from director Park.
나는 내 식구들 입에 밥을 넣어주기 위해 무슨 짓이든 한다. 어쩔 수가 없다.
특별한 일 없으셨습니까?
그 두 분이 사라지셨어요.
I love No Other Choice, and I didn't know he had this tone in his repertoire. You called it Coen-esque, and I think that is very much the most like sort of, if you're trying to sell this movie to somebody who's into movies, I think that's kind of the easiest way, is like it is maybe the most Coen brother movie not directed by a Coen brother, which, and again, like still feels very much like a Park Chan-wook movie in terms of like incredible like camera work and editing just really coming together to put you in a place and time, and it it's very interesting that after the great year Parasite had in 2019, we kind of jump forward 6 years and see another South Korean film, that is kind of speaking to our global class conditions, as director Bong said when doing the press tour for Parasite. Of course, I think my movie is going to translate to other countries. We all live under capitalism, and I think that's very true of No Other Choice as well. A movie that instead of being an eat the rich movie is about how sort of the bourgeoisie eat themselves and don't acknowledge that their own relation to more working class people, and don't really get concerned with their creature comforts and their status symbols, and sort of forget that they're subject to the same tyrants as everybody else. So yeah, a really interesting look at sort of like middle class malaise in the 21st century. And yeah, Lee Byung-hun giving my performance of the year. I think he's incredible in this thing. And Park Chan-wook makes every director who's doesn't know how to like make phones and emails interesting, like absolutely showing everybody up by making this like 2 films in a row now. He is just been so interesting in how he like integrates 21st century technology into the text of the film in a way that I think should make every filmmaker that he's contemporary with kind of sit up and take note and say, okay, challenge accepted. We really can do interesting things with the way screens impact our daily lives.
Yeah, well said. Great choice. Yeah. Laron, what is your number 3 film?
My number 3 film is One Battle After Another.
What I'm doing here is I'm creating a closed circuit. Very important to keep your cap shunted like this so you don't accidentally detonate your charge.
Don't stop. I want you to create a show. This is an announcement on revolution. The message is clear.
I'll be seeing you very soon.
Not if I see you first.
I think this is easily the best edited and well-paced movie of the year, turning a 2-hour and 42-minute movie into a very breathless race against time thriller. And also a film, a father-daughter story that's, in a very unconventional way. And then it adds a lot of political commentary with an A+ ensemble that I think are all kind of at the peak of their powers. I agree with Dalton. It needed a lot more Regina Hall. But I also think this is easily one of PTA's most rewatchable movies to date. I don't know if it's his best film. I do think it is, but it's something I will put on for the pure enjoyment that I get watching it, without it feeling heavy, although it is dealing with some heavy things with a lighter touch, if you will. One Battle After Another.
Truly a masterwork by a master filmmaker. We don't get too many of those, but I don't know. I'll come back to that because my number 3 film is Wake Up Dead Man.
Everyone thinks I did it. I didn't do it.
This goes way beyond normal police work. This is something even I have not experienced. A perfectly impossible crime.
This case is solvable, right?
I'm incapable of not solving a crime. Oh, you'll see. It's fun.
Now, listen, I know. Oh, look, Caleb loves a Rian Johnson movie. Ooh, surprise. Okay, this one even more so, though. Okay, I love this director. I love his sensibilities. He and I, not that we know each other personally, but just the way he talked. The subjects that are of interest to him tend to also be an interest to me. And in this case, he's done 2 of these sort of eat the rich movies, the original Knives Out. And of course, I think that was a previous one. Oh, Glass Onion. And both of them, Glass Onion. And I like both of those a lot. I like the first one quite a lot. Glass Onion, I've cooled on a little bit, but it is still a great time, sort of like speaking to the emotional frustration of tech billionaires that I think a lot of folks on the planet Earth have been feeling. This one, though, gets a lot more personal. As a person who also grew up in the home of a pastor who is no longer attending a church. This is a film that speaks directly to the spiritual, ethical, philosophical tightrope or negotiation I'm constantly having myself in terms of like my worldview on a pretty much daily basis. And he's able to tell the story about, sort of the state of the church. In the context of the film, it's a Catholic church, but I think it also expanded to Christians in America, whether that's Catholic, Protestant, evangelical, what have you. And he's honing in on a lot of things that are very topical right now. The cult of personality being a big one. There's the faith, there's the religious institution, and there's the call to serve others, that's scriptural. Then there's also this other power, which is the community, the cult of personality that oftentimes forms around community, weaponizing scripture for personal gains, things that are very, very much in the discourse today. And he's able to explore all of these topics in an incredibly nuanced way that feels very empathetic to all of its characters. Benoit Blanc won't say he's atheist, but he's pretty much saying, I think this is all hogwash. And yet, even he learns to empathize with the calling you see from Josh O'Connor's character in the film. So there's an impressive amount of nuance in terms of exploring these ideas in a way that is not preachy, despite it actually having literal preaching in it. And he does all of it within the framework of a whodunit. So I could wax on about this movie all day. I think it's the best one of the Knives Out films to date. I hear it's catching on. If you haven't seen it already, please make time for it, because it is definitely, despite it being about a lot of serious and important topics, I think is actually still a lot of fun to watch too. With that said, let's move on to our number 2 picks for 2025. We're coming in for the home stretch. Laron Chapman, what is your number 2 film of 2025?
Okay, my number 2 film is also on my t-shirt. It is Chloe Zhao's Hamnet.
Is it true? You know everything about a person by touching them here?
Not everything. He's got more inside of him than any man I've ever met.
Who are you looking for?
William Shakespeare.
I have no talent for waiting.
The women in my family see things.
What do you see?
Look, guys, it takes a lot to make this guy weep in a theater. And I'm telling you, on both times I watched this, I had guttural cries with this one. And I don't know if I needed that. I don't know what was going on in my particular life, but this movie just, it got me from the very first frame and the final frame. I just feel like it has this sweeping emotional pull about it that when we are in the dark depths of our own grief, this movie found a way for us to say that through that, you can still find light in humanity. And I love that. I love that catharticism that you get at the end of the film, where art, as we mentioned in sentimental value, being this thing that illuminates things for us that we can't articulate with words. And somehow that is why it is so important. This theatrical experience is so important. The communal aspect of coming together in a dark room, watching a movie together, and having a shared experience with people who have different walks of life from you, different political affiliations, and having a shared human experience together. Because that is, I think, what we're really preserving. It's not just artistry. It's that human connection that we get from the art. And I feel like Zhao understood that in such a palpable way, and she was able to convey that in really not using a whole lot of words. This movie its prose is very, very, very lyrical, very much not dialogue is used in the film, but only when it's absolutely needed. And I found the final stretch of this movie to be the most moving thing I've seen in a film in maybe 10 years. So, and I think that Jessie Buckley gives a generationally good performance in this, and will be the deserving winner of the Oscar this year.
Does she even have any real competition?
I don't think so this year. I mean, I have general 5 that I can anticipate would have a fighting chance, but in terms of getting a nomination, but winning, no, I think she's front and center.
Well said. Hamnet, a movie that, if you are a lover of the theatrical experience, theater, or even, dare I say it, religious experiences, check it out. You might like it. Or you might be like me and walk away feeling like, man, I see you, don't feel you. Dalton Stuart, what is your number 2 film of 2025?
I mean, Was there a better time at the movies this year than Ryan Coogler's Sinners? I ask you.
There are legends of people with the gift of making music so true. It can conjure spirits from the past and the future. This gift can bring fame and fortune.
Will somebody take me in your eyes?
But it also can pierce the veil between life and death.
Listen here, this ain't no house party.
Shit.
Y'all ready to drink? Y'all ready to sweat till y'all stink?
You want some?
The lesson of the movie is myriad, but one of them is for quirked up white boys to stay in their lane. So I'll keep this brief. I'll say my piece and get the fuck out of here real quick. Caleb, you called the Rocky Road to Dublin sequence ridiculous compared to everything else. I think it is like an incredible flip side to the I lied to you sequence. Rimmick is doing the same thing, right? He's doing this Irish folk song, doing this Irish folk dance, celebrating his culture and saying, come join me. You just have to join my vampire hive mind and leave behind your own unique, culturally specific experiences, or at the very least be subsumed by each other's. Yeah, crazy, interesting stuff, man. A very thoughtful movie that has so many layers. We talked about it a lot on GoodTrash when it came out with Laron's Dead Center colleague, Paris Burris. I've got a really long post for my second watch of it on Letterboxd, pinned to my profile. It's just like kind of some stray thoughts that I have about the movie. So go look at that. Go listen to that or look at that if you want to hear me opine more. But yeah, what a picture. Holy shit.
Holy shit indeed, because that is also my number 2 film of the year. Sinners. Guys, Ryan Coogler. Holy shit. Telling stories like no one else has ever like he is pushing the bounds of what can be done within a genre film. By the way, I timed it last night. You know the vampires don't show up until 40 minutes into the movie. Like the very first time we see Jack O'Connell is 40 minutes into the movie. And it's because he grounds all of the heightened supernatural stuff in very real personal histories and character dramas, a unique setting that is deeply entrenched in American culture, often a part of American culture and American history that white people like myself tend to be like, it wasn't that bad, right? Yeah. This movie is a masterclass. He's got the best score I've heard in a long time. And this was in a year full of exceptional movie scores. The cinematography, the way the aspect ratio shifts throughout the film. I mean, like that is some Christopher Nolan level stuff, if not better. There's Dalton, to your point, there's a lot to be said about Sinners. I don't know that I'm necessarily the one to say it. What I will say is I see game, I call game, and this thing is a masterpiece. That's all I'm saying. The filmmaking is just at another level, and I don't know how else to say it other than if you have not seen Sinners and the year 2025, drop what you're doing. It's on Amazon Prime right now, or better yet, just go buy the 4K Blu-ray. And if you don't have a Blu-ray player, buy one of those to watch Sinners specifically. Go watch the movie. That brings us to our number 1 film of the year. Drum rolls. Dalton Stuart. I have 3 guesses, and all of them rhyme with Meddington. What is your number 1 movie of the year?
You're being manipulated, man.
Give me a home where the buffalo roam.
Is that praying?
Where the deer and the antelope play.
How did we get here? And even worse, is it worth it?
Where seldom
At the cost of being at war with your neighbors?
a discouraging word.
That's why I'm running for mayor.
And the skies are not
Mayor of Eddington.
all day.
Thank you super duper very much. I used to think that you were some big deal. But I am a much better human being than you.
Who are you talking to? There's nobody here.
Open your mind. In the already mentioned documentary WTO 99 from 2025, there is footage of the dead Kennedys playing at the World Trade Organization protests, and their frontman Jello Biafra says very wisely, I think, in the history of this country, it's never been about left versus right. It's always been about top versus bottom. And that is what Eddington is about. I've heard a lot of slander on this film today, so I'm going to do my best to say my piece and encourage you to watch this very challenging film that will leave you with no positive answers other than maybe we should be blowing up data centers. Because it doesn't really offer any other clean outs. It's a very sad film. It's a very funny film. I heard it mentioned that there's no perspective on this film. I think the argument I would make is that it has no one perspective because it's trying to see everybody's perspective. I think the audience surrogate is one of the most wormy people in the film, or at the very least, not the audience surrogate, rather the author insert, we should say. Although if you share demographic details with the director like I do, then maybe it's one of your insert characters as well. I am so fascinated by everybody in the fictional town of Eddington's interiority and who they are, and I think it is a really well done film. And, it's along with No Other Choice, I think one of the more Coen esque, or the thing to most accurately sort of capture the tone of the Coens while bringing a different point of view. I think it's very much in that coaching tree in an interesting way. And I think, Astor's getting the same thing that early Coen brothers work got, the same criticism they got, which is like, this doesn't care about these people. All of these people are a butt of the joke. I would disagree. I think Eddington takes all these characters very fucking seriously because these are all very real people. I guarantee you, at least 3 of the characters in this movie, if you take my meaning. I'm really a movie that never stopped appreciating for me. A movie that went from 3.5 stars to 5 stars for me over the course of the year. And I've only seen it once. I think you mentioned it's a very genre savvy sort of neo-Western, Caleb. I think that's a very accurate observation in terms of like being a Western that plays with like the tropes of Westerns and plays with the inherent racial politics of the American Western and brings those into very stark relief in interesting ways. Yeah, man, it's wild. And there's not really anything else like it. And as you said, it could have only been made in 2025, Caleb. And I find that immediacy of it to be so enthralling and intoxicating because the last 5 years have felt very weird for all of us. And I know we all still we have a foot stuck in 2020. And I think that's why 2025 was the perfect movie or perfect year for this movie to come out, because we are just far enough removed to be thinking on it and still close enough to it that we are feeling the repercussions of it. An essential movie for our times, an important 21st century American movie, that is not for everyone, and I do not blame you if you don't like it, because it is very grating at times, and it is full of people being pricks to each other, and that's a huge bummer. And that was kind of that's kind of the loop we've been stuck in for a while. And the film, I think, wisely asks us to take a beat, stop joining cults, stop shooting our neighbors, and maybe have a fucking conversation with one another.
Get off the internet. I heard that. The movie told me to get off the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, lest you become a
right after
you're done with the podcast. Yeah.
Lest you become a right-wing grifter, be careful about what you hitch your wagon to.
Yes.
What a movie.
I'll give you this, Dalton. I know I've come out, you and I privately and publicly have had disagreements about this movie. I have come around to appreciate it a lot. I still don't know if I would say I like it, but I think it's doing a lot of incredibly important and valuable things and has a lot to contribute to the history of American cinema in a way that, not a lot of directors are able to do right now. And so kudos to Astor for taking the swing. Do I have a lot of notes? Yeah, but I think you nailed it. I do actually agree. I think he does respect all of his characters a lot. And I think that's also crucial. Joaquin Phoenix is probably not a great guy, but you know what? The movie is very, very, very sympathetic to him and really puts you in his shoes. And to that, I say it's a pretty impressive film. even if I initially was pretty upset about
it. Yeah, I remember.
I was mad. I was like, oh.
I think all those feelings are valid, though. I think all those feelings, it may be intentional, and maybe engineered that way.
Yeah. Well, we're always out of time. Well, I'll save it for another podcast for a later day. Laron Chapman, what is your number one film of the year?
There's only one movie I could have put here. I tried, playing and pretending I was going to put another film at the top spot. It is Sinners.
Keep dancing with the devil.
Careful, boy. You gonna bite off more than you can chew.
One day he's gonna follow you home.
We got us a problem, y'all.
What the hell going on?
Oh, we heard tale of a party.
This world already left you for dead.
I can save you from your fate.
You don't need no saving.
Yes, you do.
And you are? I am. Your way out.
I saw this movie thrice in theaters, and also watched it once at home. It's part Western, it's part horror, it's part musical. I mean, it's part blaxploitation film. I think it's visually and sonically the most thrilling movie to come out this year. And it has the single best scene of the year. And it's a scene that when we saw it in the theater, I will never forget it. Like I had a moment where I felt like I left my body and I was in a different realm, and I was actually experiencing what they were experiencing, but with ancestors that I've only read about, you know what I mean? In that sense. And I felt so connected to it. And I think it, in many ways, similar to Hamnet, similar to Sentimental Value, also having a commentary about the transcendent power of art and how it connects us to all the different threads of our humanity throughout time and across time. And I think that, and it does all this in the context of a genre movie, and with a predominantly all Black cast. And I'm just living for this kind of movie being loved across race, across generations. And I really think that we're looking at an instant classic, and I feel like this is a movie we'll be talking about for many, many years, referencing in the same way we do Get Out or films of that nature, that I just think are really, really, really a great moment for cinema.
Got to shout out dual Michael B. Jordan performances, man. I watched it again last night, and it still just slaps. He's so good. Yeah, Sinners, instant classic would be selling it short. It is a bona fide American classic. It's a banger. Go out and see it now. Laron, I'm so happy that you loved it. The sequence you're talking about is an all-timer. I'll go to my grave thinking about that moment when I saw it. It's good stuff. Well, I'll keep it short because we could do a whole podcast about the conversation between Eddington and my number one pick, one battle after another.
We are here to award Stephen Lockjaw with the Medal of Honor.
You have to understand, Willa.
Me and Mom used to run around and do some real bad shit. They got hurt. Now they're coming after us. Sorry.
I didn't ask for this. That's just how the cards were rolled out for me.
It's not cards. You don't roll cards. It's dice.
Dad, what is wrong with you?
You're right.
Let's go.
What I will tell you is I feel like this is a movie about the crises that I have been facing throughout my lifetime as a millennial, at least since post 9/11. You're talking about border crises. You're talking about white supremacists hiding in the shadows only to emerge in the most powerful positions in our countries, in our nation, with tremendous amounts of power and using and wielding that power to inflict harm on entire communities because of personal vendettas. And it's a movie about the revolutionaries who are fighting those powers that are actually trying to destroy us because of petty prowess egos, people who want to be loved, people whose daddies didn't love them enough are actively destroying communities in this country today. And so anyway, long way of saying, not only is it about it feels like a snapshot of the last 30 years in a way that feels very real to me, but I also think that the movie is more optimistic than Eddington, and that it is, and it's a little cliche, it is, hey, all of us can do is work together to overturn these evils that seem unstoppable. And we might not get there. We might not get there in our lifetime. And that is a very depressing thing to come to terms with, that you can fight a battle your whole life only to realize that you did not receive a full victory. What is important is that you're able to pass down those values, whatever those look like, to the next generation to continue for the cause. Because otherwise, we're all going to get steamrolled. Our children are going to live in an objectively worse world than we live in if we do not continue pressing and fighting. So for me, it feels like a rallying call. I also think outside of the ideas and message, this is top shelf filmmaking from Paul Thomas Anderson, a man who has already made a myriad of American classics that can only be made about America, makes another movie about this moment. He's done There Will Be Blood. He's done The Master, and now he's back at it again, and he's exploring things that I think are uniquely American and speak to our history, the current moment, and how our unwillingness to confront the evils that are lying beneath the surface or in the shadows are actively destroying everything we thought we loved about the world we lived in. So, and also, it's got the coolest car chase I've ever seen in my life. There is a scene in the end of the movie, if you haven't seen it, when I'm watching it, this happens so rarely anymore. When you're watching a sequence where you're like, I've never seen this before. Never. And we've all on this podcast seen thousands of movies at this point. It's very rare when you see a car chase of all things that you're like, that this has never been done before. I won't spoil it, but needless to say, it is definitely one of the most exciting cinematic sequences, right up there with the one Laron was talking about in Sinners of the 2020s, hands down. And not to mention, it has a hell of an ending that I also didn't see coming. So, yeah, check it out. My top movie of the year, One Battle After Another. It is now streaming on HBO Max as well.
We are out of time. You're right. Oh, I would love to talk to you more about that movie because we didn't get to talk to each other about it a ton. Yeah, if your social circle's not talking about a few small beers, then I can't help you.
Man. That's right.
I liked and loved the film, but yeah, some of the most impressive stuff of the year, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, just to wrap us up, because we're out of time, real quick, maybe we could do for our audience, just count down also our top 10, starting from 10 all the way to 1. And that'll close out the show for us. Dalton Stuart, what are your top 10 films of the year, starting at number 10?
My number 10 is the documentary WTO 99. My number 9, is Akiva Schaffer's The Naked Gun. My number 8 is The Martin Supremacy. That's right, Marty Supreme at number 8. This is what you want. This is what you get. My number 7 is Spike Lee's Highest to Lowest. My number 6 is Weapons. My number 5, good stuff, Zach Kreger. We love that one. My number 5 is Friendship by Andrew DeYoung. My number 4 is Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later. My number 3 is Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice. My number 2 is Ryan Coogler's Sinners. And last but not least, we have Ari Aster's Eddington landing at my number 1 spot.
All right. Excellent round of films. Laron Chapman, what are your top 10 films of the year?
Okay, my number 10 is Weapons. My number 9 is Begonia. My number 8 is 28 Years Later. My number 7, highly underseen movie. Both of you need to see it if you haven't already. Surat. Watch it. It's art house Mad Max in the desert rave, EDM music. Fantastic movie. God, I wish more people watched it. Number 6, Marty Supreme. Number 5, Sorry Baby. Number 4, Sentimental Value. Number 3, One Battle After Another. Number 2, Hamnet. And coming in at number 1, Ryan Coogler's magnum opus at this point, Sinners.
Excellent lineup. My top 10 films of the year. Number 10, Marty Supreme. Snuck it in, Marty. Yeah, that timely release got to me. So my number 10, Marty Supreme. Number 9 is Superman. Thank God we finally got a good Superman movie. I can die happy now. Number 8, Weapons. Thanks, Zach Kreger. That was a ride. Number 7, Sentimental Value. A tie for 5th place is Train Dreams and No Other Choice. Then we have number 4, which is 28 Years Later. My number 3 is Wake Up Dead Man. My number 2 is Sinners. And my number 1 film of the year is One Battle After Another. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our top 5 and top 10 films of the year 2025. The industry might be in a state of uncertainty and financial woes, but I will tell you what, holy shit, we got some great movies this last year. And I hope we can keep that momentum going in 2026. Dalton Stuart, thanks so much for joining, man. It's been a pleasure. Where can people follow you in your work online?
Yeah, if you want to find me online, I'm at Dollywood Squares on Instagram, and I've got the links to all the crap I do on there. And I'm Dollywood Squares on Letterboxd too. You just got to drop the vowels to find me. But yeah, I'm all over the internet at that handle.
All right. Check them out. Good Trash Genrecast. Always a great time. And of course, Oklahoma Film Exchange. If you live in the OKC area, be on the lookout. You guys have some killer programming over there. Laron Chapman, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Letterboxd at black_Cine_man, or you can follow me here on the Cinematropolis for more episodes like this. Also, I have a film review column, Real Insights, REEL, with Laron Chapman at the Cinematropolis.
Check it out there. Of course, you can find me in all the things at Cinematropolis. My social media handles is C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk on all the social media platforms. And if you're not watching the video version of this, we are now available on YouTube. So consider heading on over to the Cinematropolis on YouTube and giving us a subscribe, ringing the bell, and seeing what else we got going for you here in the weeks ahead. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We'll be back next week with our sneak peek at the year to come, 2026, where we find out which of us called the top grossing box office of 2025 before making our bold predictions for 2026. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.